Oh, wait a minute. How do you want to be? Do you want to be Jodie Doff?
I am Jodie Doff.
Okay, here we go.
Sh.Doff.
We're talking with Jodie Doff, who is a contributor.
Jodie Sh.Doff.
Jodie Sh.Doff, who is a contributor to the book Hoes, Hookers, Call Girls, and Rent Boys, Professionals Writing on Life, Love, Money, and Sex. Hi, Jodie. How are you?
Hi, David.
We were just talking about your hair, and I just love it. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you very much.
So you've been getting some weird comments about it?
Well, no, I've been getting weird comments. Like my therapist thinks it looks weird. My mother just laughed at me.
Your mom laughed at you. Oh, no.
And everybody else actually thinks it's really nice. Thank you. It's a birthmark. It's natural.
So, I was just curious, like, what kind of environment did you grow up in?
I grew up in the suburbs, in the Long Island of the 50s. I came of age in the late 60s, early 70s, so it was TV dinners and planned communities and rumors of wife swapping, and it was all very nice. You know, I lived in Long Island, in Levittown, which was one of the very first planned communities, and it was a big void. It was a big cultural void, and just, you know, waiting to get out.
Just waiting to get out.
Waiting to get out. Came out of the womb and was waiting to get out.
It's so funny, like, I moved around as a kid all the time, and I was always envious of people like you who had their neighborhood and their people, and then as I started to get to know more of them, they all said I couldn't wait to get the fuck out.
There was nothing to do. There was nothing to do but drink, have sex in the fields, hang out at the beach, and drive your car. I started driving when I was like 14 or 15, and everybody did. And that's all we did, you know, went to the fields and got drunk, went to the beach and got drunk, and, you know, ran away to the city and, you know, tried to get out of Long Island.
And were you...
Now I'm trying to get back.
Now you're trying to get back to the
now
suburbs.
I'm sick of the city, and now I want to get back to the
funny
suburbs.
how that goes, yeah. And were you an outsider in high school, or were you like a popular girl?
That's so funny. No, I was not a popular girl. I was I want to say I was a geek, but geek implied that I was one of the really smart kids. I wasn't. I was, and with Facebook being the way it is now, I've recently been friended by several of the mean girls from high school who all of a sudden want to be my friends, and it took me back, and I finally got like, I emailed back, and I'm like, wait, you were a really mean girl in high school, and I was the girl you were mean to, and like, why do you want to be my friend 37 years later? And it was, you know, there was, it's very, very cliquish in high school. I guess it is every place. I was smart, and I didn't know what to do with that. There were outside issues, you know, there was like early sexual abuse and stuff like that, and I didn't know what to do with that, you know. The school system was not ready to deal with that, didn't know what to do, so I was a geeky kid, and I would do pretty much anything for attention, and that did not make me popular. Somewhere around junior high, high school, I found drugs and alcohol, and then I was fine. I found my people, and it saved my life.
Drugs and alcohol saved your life.
Saved my life. In high school, you know, I know it sounds funny.
It sounds really funny. Drugs and alcohol can save your lives, kids.
Then I took it to, you know, the extreme, and it damn near killed me. But back then, it saved my sanity and saved my life, because otherwise I would have thrown myself in traffic. You know, I was really lonely without having the words for lonely, not fitting in with not having the words to say, hey, I don't know how to be your friend, I don't know how to be a kid, I don't know what to do with all these feelings, I don't know how to be a girl, I don't know how to grow up, any of that stuff. So I tell you, you know, you get in those feelings, it helps.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't go through adolescence again for anything in the world.
Right. And was there, in your family, was there an openness about sexuality? Did people discuss it?
Ooh, touchy subject. Yes, no. Yes, no. There was. We talked about it, but I was encouraged to have a really good time. I was encouraged to enjoy sex. I was never in a position, it was funny. I didn't grow up in a really healthy household. There was a lot of anger, there were a lot of secrets, and there was a lot of fear. So like the stuff that happened to me when I was a kid, nobody knew about that until I was an adult. There wasn't, and I think that's with a lot of kids, not just girls, but boys as well. It's like you don't have that grown up you can go to and say, hey, somebody did this, or is this okay? On the one hand, I was encouraged to enjoy my sexuality by one half of the parenting group, and then on the other half, I was shamed for it and discouraged from having any contact.
Well, it must have been hard to get those mixed messages.
Which is why I'm in therapy now. My therapist's telling me that I look weird. Yeah. So.
And did you go to college?
Right out of high school. I graduated high school when I was 16 years old. I was a really smart kid, and I was getting great grades, and I was doing a lot of drugs, and I was still getting great grades, and I was not showing up for high school at all. I'd go to my homeroom, I'd go out, I was getting high in the field, and I turned 16, and I said, this is it. You got me till, and then this is my last year, and I'm leaving, so let me do junior and senior together. And then my life ambition at that point had either been to be a garbage man or a work in a factory. I like the idea of being a garbage man because you never actually had to like wear clean clothes. You get to drive on
your hair,
right? Or work in a factory, and so basically I just hung around the house and got high and hung out, and didn't come home for days. And at one point my mom said, you get a job, you go to school, or you get the hell out of my house. And I thought going to school was the easiest of those options, so I went to school and studied acting because you can't fail. I went to a community college because I hadn't taken any Regents exams, no SATs, no nothing, because I hadn't planned, A, I hadn't planned on getting older than 23, B, I hadn't planned on going to school. And so I went to a community college and studied acting because they can't fail you.
They really can't.
Yeah, so that's, I have I got my associate's degree then. Years later, as a grown-up, I got a bachelor's in something else equally as useless.
Really?
English. So I already speak. So.
English and acting.
Yeah. So I write.
So you're set.
Yeah.
And what do you do now?
Now I am the production director for a national hip-hop magazine.
Really?
Yeah. I'm the token grown-up. I thought I'd be the token white girl, but I'm the token adult.
It's so funny when I look at you. You don't scream hip hop.
No, I don't.
I really don't.
I don't, but I am the mom, and the interns, we have like 35 interns, and they'll come in, it's like, jump banding, and they come to me when they're feeling uncomfortable. It's like this one comes in and tells me she has social anxiety disorder, and this one comes in and tells me problems with her boyfriend, so I'm the mom.
And do you enjoy that role?
It's kind of nice.
I think you'd be good at it.
I am pretty good at it. I don't have any kids of my own, and I like it that way. But I do like having like a little gaggle of ducklings following me around.
Yeah, that's fun.
So it works.
So let's go from the girl who's studying acting. How does she get into Times Square?
Actually, she was there before she started acting.
Oh, wow.
Because I totally forgot that. So like, all right, so out of high school,
all right.
The part of the time of the doing nothing but getting high, my first job in the city, I was working for a law firm, and my boyfriend at the time was a hustler, working actually down here. This is my old stomping grounds.
What kind of hustling?
He was a male prostitute for men.
Yeah. But he was straight.
Not so much.
He was your boyfriend.
Yeah, I was a bit of the queen of the fag gags back then.
Were you? Yeah, I can see that.
And he killed himself. I worked for this law firm. He killed himself. And actually, at the funeral, there were men that were married to him, women that were married to him. People. He could. And I totally get it. I knew why he killed himself. He couldn't feel anything. There was like no love that was going to penetrate. And I had a bit of a breakdown working at this firm. When they called me at work and told me that he was dead. And right after that little breakdown, I lost my job. And I saw an ad in the Village Voice, which was every girl's answer to what do I do next is the back pages of the Village Voice back then. It's like, and there was an ad that said bartender, no experience. And I had a lot lot of no experience. So I went there, and I was like a chubby little 17-year-old, and who never felt pretty or wanted or attractive or anything like that. And I had been making I thought I wanted to be a lawyer at that point, and I was making about $150 a week. This is 1974, 75. About $150 a week at this law firm before taxes. And then my first day behind the bar at what was then Robbie's Mardi Gras, which was the largest topless bar in the city. It's this giant horseshoe bar, 3 stages in the center, and so much glitter and so many lights and these gorgeous women in gorgeous costumes, and just, it was endless. And it was like, I guess it's like being in Vegas. I mean, there was no concept of day or night. It was next to the Metropole. I'm not sure what there is now. Metropole is now some other topless bar. But they put me in a leotard, shoved me behind a bar, and I made $85 cash that first day with no experience in the afternoon and all my little chubbiness. And I thought, that's more than I was taking home for a week's worth of work. And I went, ching ching, I got it. You know, like that, and there I was there. So I worked there for a while. I did
Behind the bar.
Behind the bar, and then I wound up on stage. I auditioned. Oh my God, my audition on stage was just sad. It was. It was just sad. There was a girl there that was Lisa, who was fabulous, and she could make a long neck bottle of beer come, and she taught me how to do that. And she used to.
I only wish we had one here, because I would really like to see that.
She was one of the Rockettes. She had been one of the Rockettes.
Really?
And these girls were fabulous. I mean, I just thought they were the most gorgeous things in the world. And I had been taken under this one barmaid's wing, whose name was Raven. She was a biker chick, and I aspired to being a biker chick. And so they gave me this G-string that. I don't know how many people wore that. It was obviously the audition G-string. It was this like little thin piece of like scratchy blue glittery fabric and 2 rubber bands. And I was like, I'm on stage and I want to be one of these glamorous girls. I'm like, this is it. This is like, I'm a big showgirl now. And I have no idea what I'm doing. At one point they're like, do floor work. And I don't know what floor work is. And he's like, oh, pretend you're on top. I had never been on top. It's like I had my sexual experience had been rather depressing before then, and certainly not, yeah, it was, I don't even want to go into that.
That's a whole other book right there.
Yeah, it was just.
I saw the whole thing flash in front of your eyes.
Where I was doing like naked push-ups and thinking like that. I don't know. I don't know what's like on top. And but I felt gorgeous. It's like there were mirrors all over, and I saw just chunks of myself, which was fine. I didn't need to see my whole self. I wasn't ready. I still don't like to see my whole self. But like this shadowed me all over, and lights, and everybody was looking at me, and I was gorgeous. And that's it. I was sold. Like, I wasn't going back. And, I was a big-ass white girl. I had a bar full of black guys that thought I was fabulous. I was a 17-year-old kid. Didn't know what the hell was going on. I actually got fired from that job because all my customers were black. Because all my customers were pimps. And pimps don't buy champagne. This was the day of a champagne hustle. They don't buy champagne. They're not spending money. They're there to, take the girls out. And
tell people what the champagne hustle is. I know what you're talking about, but many
champagne
won't.
Hustle is.
It's a weird little thing.
They don't have that anymore.
No, they don't. No.
A champagne hustle is like you want to sit and have a drink with a girl. If you want to spend any time with a girl, you have to buy her a drink. And you would have to buy her a bottle of champagne. It's a little nip. 9 times out of 10, it's not the first time it's been opened. Usually there's not even champagne in there. It's just refilled with ginger ale. And you get the champagne bottle, the little champagne glass, and you get a frosted glass, a chaser, which is actually a spit glass. And what the girl would do, because if you drink all this champagne, you get a commission on your champagne. If you drank it all, you'd be really fucked up by the time you walked out of there, and not any good to anybody. So you take a sip of your champagne, and then you sip from your chaser, which is actually empty. There's nothing in there but ice, and that's why it's a frosted glass. And you let the champagne dribble back into the frosted glass. So you're really just transferring it from the bottle to your mouth into the glass. Bottle, mouth, into the glass. So you're not drinking any of it. And back then I think it was $20 for a nip. And $20 was a lot of money when you consider I was making $150 a week in an office. So, and we used to save those glasses. We would save one or two of them aside and not wash them for the customers we didn't like, and then we'd serve their drinks in those glasses with like a million people spitting there.
Nasty.
Spitting there. So, but pimps aren't buying champagne. They know the deal. B, you know, they're not gonna, if they want to give you $20, they're gonna give you $20 and take you, you know, out to dinner or something like that back then. So I got fired. And I actually took my work name was JJ, and I picked that up from a pimp that I desperately wanted to work for, who treated me like gold, taught me a whole lot of stuff, and he was like, back then all the guys, they looked like Huggy Bear from
Like with the big hats and the
feathers
and the big boots
and platform shoes and ice cream colors and incredible like 3-piece polyester whatever.
Peacocks, yeah.
And he would show up in a 3-piece pinstripe, you know, gold wire rim glasses, very understated, and he never speak above a whisper, and you know, I was sold on that. So he was JJ and I was little JJ.
Yeah, you know, people who haven't worked in the business, they have all of these ideas about what sex work is, and one thing that I feel like a lot of people don't understand, especially when you're a kid. Like I was 17 when I got in business, and I too felt unlovable, unworthy. I had been thrown away by my family, I felt like. But when I was on the job, man, I felt powerful, I felt big, I felt wanted, I felt valued. People were giving me money. It made me feel like, you know, like Superman, you know?
It makes you feel okay.
It does. It makes you feel that you're okay.
And also what it gave me, because I was like that when I was on stage in the music, and I still play the music. Yeah. It keeps me separate from other people, and it just would like drive me. But it was a community, and that's the thing is I'm still in touch with one or two of the girls. Actually, two of the girls I know. I'm sober now 19 years. Two of the girls I know. One is sober a considerable amount of years. The other one, pretty much. You know, she's changed her life. A lot of us are dead. One of the girls I know is down in Florida. She's doing massage. You know, she's raising her kid. Her kid wants to go up to be a topless dancer. I'm like, okay, that's not something, like I did it, but it's really not what you want. Your 15-year-old goes like, I want to be a stripper when I go up. No. And the other one is running scams out in the Midwest. But what I had at the time was where I couldn't go to my family. I didn't have friends I could go to when stuff went wrong. I had an awful lot of stuff, bad stuff happened to me. I was raped, I was kidnapped, I saw friends of mine, you know, I saw people stabbed on stage, I had friends murdered. I mean, that was Times Square. That was New York back then. It wasn't just Times Square. I mean, I lived in the East Village, and you know, Alphabet City, you couldn't get a cab to go past. They would drop you at First Avenue and go, good luck. They would not go. And that's where I spent a lot of my time, you know.
And you were still doing drugs this time?
I was still doing drugs for a very long time. I left the sex business and I kept doing drugs. But I had someone, you know, when something happened to me, I could show up at one of these girls' house and they would do what had to be done to take care of it. They would, you know, like, when I had a guy try to kill me, and I went to my friend. We called up an ex of mine who killed people for a living, and he didn't do anything, and I didn't want him to do anything. I didn't want him to go back to jail. But a week later, this guy was thrown down a flight of stairs. Every bone in his body was broken. It's like, you know, things were taken care of. I'm not condoning that necessarily, but you know what? Somebody was looking out for me. I didn't have anybody, and there's something about that community, and it sounds pretentious to say it, but it's like, you know, those foxhole friendships they talk about when you're on the front lines in war. But that's what it was, because today, you know, strippers are on TV. They talk about this. They're putting themselves through grad school. That wasn't my experience in the 70s. In the 70s, you were a dirty girl. This was not something you talked about. My friends were all in the same business. They were doing live sex shows over at Show World. You couldn't tell the real world that. You lied. You just lied. And I remember going to I was working in Times Square, I was living in the East Village, and it was so hard for me to get from the East Village to Times Square sometimes. I thought, I'm going to get an apartment closer to my job. And I had so much money. I was making $1,000 a week. My rent was $200 a month. All cash. I mean, and this is $1,000 a week, 1978, 79 money.
Yeah.
And I walked into this building, this new building that had gone up in Hell's Kitchen, Times Square area, and they wouldn't even show me an apartment. And well, I think back, like I had on this little pink Pat Benatar layer mini skirt with my fishnets and my platforms. And I had on, my hair was, I had a little crew cut and it was like bright red. And I don't know, like when I got money and I'm like pulling that, like the hundreds of dollars out of my pocket. And they will not, they're like, just go away. And would not show me, and I just like, I took my righteous anger, I'm like, fuck you, I had more money than I knew what to do with. We took cabs. I worked on a bar on 46th Street. I'd get off my shift and I went to another bar. I worked on one topless bar on 46th and I'd take one to a topless bar on 48th. We took a cab.
From 46 to 48.
Well, and the little streets went in the wrong direction. I was like, I had so much money. And no idea what to do with it. There were like one or two girls. Like today, girls are buying, they're buying property. They're putting themselves through school. Back then, there was one woman I knew, Big Susan, who would show up. She was a Wall Street broker, and she was stunning. I mean, stunning. And she would show up around the holidays just for extra money. She never talked to anybody. She didn't sit with anybody. You couldn't buy her champagne. She came in, she made her money, she invested it, she left. She was one of the few people that didn't get caught up. She wasn't doing drugs. There was no weird sex stuff. You never saw her in after hours. Very, very different. That was a lifestyle back then. Compared to now, it's more of a means to an end. At least the topless business.
Yeah, no, I hear people talking all the time about what's my exit strategy. And I feel like when I was in the business, there was no such idea.
Yeah, somebody's going to kill me.
That's your exit strategy. Either I'll kill someone or someone will kill me. And that's how I'll get out. Yeah. And I'm curious, now I was on a bus the other day, I was in Florida, and this woman from the Upper East Side says to me, oh, don't you love what they've done to Times Square? It's so nice. I'm like, my teeth almost fell out because I feel exactly the opposite. I hate the Disneyfication of Times Square.
I call it Mauschwitz.
Mauschwitz.
I think I get it, it's good for the city, but
I understand intellectually, yeah.
But I think every city should have an area where tourists are afraid to go, but want to go, and are rightly afraid of being scared. Okay, people are still afraid of going to Bushwick, and they should be, and there's no reason to go to Bushwick. But Times Square, I miss it. It was arcades and I mean the theaters, even when they were closed. And then they got that haiku for a while, and just the best bars. It was just like, I don't know. I was drawn to it as a kid, and I can't tell you why. I loved the Lower East Side. I moved here. I had a choice when I moved into Manhattan. I had a choice between living over here in the West Village, where we are now. We're in the West Village, or in the East Village. And I specifically, the East Village in 1978 was nothing but junkies and little Ukrainian ladies. And there was no reason to go there unless you were Ukrainian and visiting your grandmother or going there to college. And here was the way it is now. It's still full of tourists. And I moved to the East Village because I didn't want to be around all those people. I wanted to be isolated. I wasn't an artist or anything. I just liked kind of that little grungy, and it's not that anymore, but it really isn't any place. There's no place to live on the cheap. I had friends that were living in the West Village back then that, I don't know, they never had jobs. I don't know what they were doing or how they paid rent, but, it was a lot easier to be, it's a lot easier to live on the edge, as far as community goes, back then than it is now. Now, I'm looking at their rents. I don't know how people pay their rent.
It's going to be an island of millionaires.
Yeah.
And I feel like that it's destroyed the fabric in some ways of what made this such a great city. I mean, one of the things I loved about Times Square was that, literally could have an art house movie here, and then a porn movie here, and a regular movie, Rambo would be there, and tourists and Broadway actors and junkies and all the whole spectrum of society.
And you could
right
go to
there.
was it Playland? I think it was the Playland arcade. And you could get your ID there. And
Yes.
and it's like, and one of my favorite places was the Gaiety Burlesque, which I think is still there.
I think it's gone now.
Is it? Because I know when the Marriott Marquis opened up, the Gaiety Burlesque, for those who don't know, was a gay male strip joint.
No, it is closed.
It isn't?
So long ago.
Because I know the Marriott Marquis tried to buy them out, and they wouldn't. And the executive suites looked right into the window.
Oh, that's great.
And we used to hang out there. We'd get off work, and you'd go hang out in the Gaiety, and it was like us, a bunch of other hookers, a couple of raincoat guys sitting there. It was nice.
Yeah.
Now I have to go to Times Square periodically for work. Some of my vendors are there, and I skeeve that neighborhood. I mean, there's so many people. It's like walking through Grand Central Station all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not interesting.
No.
It's a little overwhelming. It's a little like Blade Runner right now.
Yeah,
I walk
it is,
through there, and it's like
it is.
it's just like that scene. It's like there's so much neon and so no airspace. Like every inch of airspace is taken up by some advertising. And I liked having that little kind of insular community that was there where, I'd go from my joint to Tin Pan Alley to Bernard's to O'Neill's. It was like we all knew each other.
Little circuit, yeah.
Yeah.
So, do you feel like you learned things in the sex business?
How do you mean learn things?
Well, I mean, for me anyway, like
big life lessons or
well,
tricks?
I mean, like I feel like one of the things that I learned in that business was how to instantly evaluate someone. You look at them and size them up. Is it going to be somebody who's looking to do me harm, or is it someone who's looking to not do me harm?
That, you know what? I learned some of that. I learned my friend JJ, JJ the pimp.
Your employment counselor?
My employment counselor, JJ the pimp, who I actually followed his arc for quite some time. The last I heard, he was handing out leaflets in front of one of the porn theaters, which just broke my heart. He was like, he'd been beaten up a couple of times, and it's like, I wanted him to, I don't know, he should have, sounds awful, but he should have gone out big. He should have either gotten shot or retired. And he would teach me little things. I mean, check for little things as far as, whether or not somebody had money, to look at their shoes, to look at the soles of their shoes, to check around the, the edge of their shirts, was it frayed or not. Little things like that, to tell whether somebody was in the money or not. When it came to, was somebody going to hurt me or not? Yeah, not so much. Had I learned that, I would have been in a lot fewer dicey situations. What I learned is I could take a hell of a punch. I learned how to not show when anything hurt. I learned how to not show, emotionally or physically, when I was fearful. I learned how to detach. A lot of the lessons I learned were survival lessons back then that are not functional now. And take a lot of unlearning.
Yeah.
You just learn to keep moving. It's funny, I crashed a car. I crashed a couple of cars recently. And this first one, I crashed a car into the Manhattan Bridge.
Oh no!
Head on
That's
into
terrible.
The bridge.
No.
I know, it's hard to miss a bridge, but there it was.
No.
Like boom, hit the bridge, head on, ripped the front of my truck off.
It's a terrible feeling, isn't it, when you?
Well, the thing is, you know what? My hair, I was done. I looked really good. It's like full makeup, I had my hair on, and I was going someplace. It was like 8 o'clock in the morning, and I thought I was bleeding because the airbag hit me, and I saw this big red mark, and then I realized it was my lipstick.
All right.
But I'm surrounded by 17 firemen, and they won't let me go like this to come out of the truck, and it's like I had to because I had big hair on, and I had to take my hair off to get out of the truck, and I was humiliated. I had to do that in front of them. But the point is, I got out of the truck, and I called a friend of mine. I said, I'm running late. Why don't you meet me for breakfast in Brooklyn? Like, I never even mentioned that. I just totaled the car. They had to cut wires and stuff like that, and I wound up hospitalized, internal, I ulcerative colitis. It's a stress thing, and it's like a normal person, you crash a truck into the side of a bridge, they have to cut you out, you sit down by the side of the road and you cry. This is a normal reaction. That never occurred to me, nor did it occur to me when I crashed the second car or the third car. Because I came from a place where if something happens to you and you stop and cry, you're dead. They're going to run right over you. My experience in sex work was less of, it wasn't survival sex, which, you know, a lot of you see with the crack growers and stuff like that, but it wasn't this intellectual choice that the girls putting themselves through grad school are. It was like, it happened, I was there, and then it just became my life, and I learned how to survive in it. I think it's a viable choice in a different society. I think in this society you're so stigmatized by it. Less so now, and I think projects like this are really important to let people know, like, hello, human beings, raising families. But then it was a lifestyle, and it's just like, you just gotta keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving. And that's what I learned how to do, is keep moving and not let anything touch me.
Yeah, I feel like it's at times in my life where there's some kind of disaster that's gone on, you know, recently in my life, and everyone around me is going, oh my God, what's going on? I'm the opposite. I become more calm, more still, more detached. And I go, okay, this needs to be done, that needs to be done, this needs to be done. And at some one point, one of my friends is like, what's wrong with you? Look what's happened here. How can you sit there like you're on a vacation cruise? And it's because of this ability to detach.
But after 9/11, I was on the phone with my boyfriend. He called me. He was there. He was in the hotel. He watched the whole thing. And I just sat there. It's like everybody else left the office. I'm like, I'm not going out in the madness. It's like I went into, like, what is the logical thing to do? And it's no different. It's like, incident's the same guy when he tried to kill me that I referred to before. Tried to kill me. Okay, tried to kill me, and then he decided he was going to rape me once he thought I was dead. He thought I was dead because I realized he wasn't going to stop trying to kill me until he thought I was dead. And I stopped fighting, and I went limp, and I just dropped. And he thought, well, as long as she's dead, I might as well. And knock wood, he passed out on top of me. And I laid there, and laid there, and laid there till I knew he was, you know, till I could listen to his breathing, and I could slide out, and just like inch by inch by inch. And it's like, I know how to take care of myself when in a crisis. Still learning how to take care of myself in the non-crisis part. It's like I function very well in chaos. So 9/11, you know, I have a friend of mine who still flinches when the planes fly low, and I was like, I think it's a horrible thing. But she's like, well, you're just in denial. I'm like, no, it was a horrible thing. I get it. It was, but I didn't have that panic reaction. It's like it doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm not in danger. Move on. You know.
Yeah, and I found also that this ability, I guess you could call it, to detach, it had a lot of great things about it, but it also affected me in adverse ways when I would try to be in a relationship with a civilian, and I would find myself in that moment where intimacy was clearly called for. I would be internally moving backwards while the other person was moving forward.
You were in relationships with civilians when you were working?
I was, yeah. And subsequently after that, I would still find I'd find myself detaching in these moments where intimacy was clearly on the table.
I still have trouble.
Do you? Yeah.
I wasn't in any relationships with civilians. Well, one, but that was not actually a relationship. That was a little bit of a state. So he was in a relationship. I wasn't. I was there for the money.
Oh, I see. He thought there was a relationship going on. I know.
But I was never in a relationship with civilians. The closest I came to civilians were cops, and they were just the flip side of, you know, the same game. And even now, I have a lot of trouble with intimacy. Working on it, a lot of fear of intimacy. It's like this fear of getting trapped. I don't know. I'm not sure that I can name it all, but even today, like, the only relationships I have, romantic relationships, are with people that share a similar history. They're either recovering drug addicts or sex workers or something. Part of it is because I don't want to have to apologize for my past. I don't have to explain it. I like being able to shorthand it, and while for me it's a considerable amount of years ago, and some of my friends, well, you don't have to bring that up. It's like, I do have to bring it up. I don't have to go like, hi, I'm Jodie. I used to, like, I used to be a stripper. I was, it's like I was a diamond dance girl, but but it shaped so much of who I am today that I can't not mention, like, oh, what'd you do for that 10 years? Well, that's the 10 years that shaped my entire life, but I'm not gonna really talk about that.
I found that when I didn't talk about that, it was always, for me, the monkey was in the room somewhere, and it was just like, I could barely focus because the monkey was moving all around.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I said, look, when someone, I'm the same way. It's not like when I sit down at a table, I'm like, hi, I'm David Sterry, ex-chicken, ex-rent boy. That's not how I define myself. But when someone asks, or when it comes up, I, for years, hid myself, and it just was horrible. But when I finally was able to say, look, this is who I was, this is who I did, this is how I deal with it, that's when I was finally able to sort of go beyond being a hidden person to sort of being my full self.
It's funny, the people I work with now, a lot of them know, and particularly because I'm not writing, I used to write under another name, I wrote under the name Scarlet Fever for years. Mostly, well, some of it because I wrote erotica and I didn't want nut jobs calling me at home, and also to protect my parents.
Yeah.
But now I'm in my early 50s, my mother's almost 80, 79, she's 79, in case she ever sees this. And she can take care of herself. If she still feels like she has to apologize for something I did, that is now her problem. I've gotten that far in therapy.
That's good, that's great.
Her problem.
That's good progress.
And I don't have any shame about it. Do I have any regrets? I regret some of the stuff that happened. I could live very well without being, hit a bunch of times. But I like the person it makes me now. It means that I'm available. I had a girlfriend of mine who was, she was a working prostitute. She got raped, and she had no idea what to do with that. And it's like, wait, I can show up for that now. I can walk you through, and like you can't handle it, but I can take you down to the police department. I can demand your rights. I can walk you through. So I wouldn't have had that ability had I not gone through this other stuff. But it's funny, the people who know me now, like the people I work with now, and I work in a very hip organization, so it's not like I'm working for, Bear Stearns. I don't even think that exists anymore, but, one of those financial firms. Their response, and actually I go to grad school, and I mentioned it in my grad school class, it came up the other day, and their reaction is like, wow, you must have some great stories. And I was like, that's nice.
That is nice. I've had that reaction too.
Yeah.
Yes,
So,
yes,
of course, I'm not. Like it's nobody's mom who I'm dating. It's like if you bring me home for dinner or something like that. But, so I'm kind of out of the closet now. It's good.
Feels good to be out, doesn't it?
It does feel good. And one of the reasons I chose to start writing under my own name is there's one piece I've written that's unrelated to this. But it was about a traumatic incident in my life, and it's published under my own name. And I had 2 people in the last week have contacted me because they read it. This was published 10 years ago. And they tracked me down because they were one tracked me down because she was going through something similar. She's having a lot of trouble reconciling with her past. We wound up emailing back and forth, and I thought, you know what? When I got out of the business, when I finally got out, and I got out because I fell in love. I fell in love with another hustler. And I thought we'd be Bonnie and Clyde. I thought, like, he's ripping off all the gay guys, and I'm ripping off all the straight guys. And between us, like, there's like every guy, we got all of them. And then we fell in love, and neither one of us wanted the other one to work. And but what was the point behind this? Oh, and I thought when I got out, I thought, you know what, this shouldn't be wasted. I should do something with this. It's like there should be somebody. It's one of the reasons I got involved with Pony. For those of you who don't know, it's Prostitutes of New York, which is an offshoot of Coyote, which came out of California, Call Off Your Old Tired Ethics. But there was nobody for me to turn to when I got raped. There was nobody for me to turn to when I was kidnapped. When the guy who kidnapped me killed 2 friends of mine, and we told the police, we knew who it was, we had all the evidence, here's all this, they didn't care. Because it was scum killing scum. As far as they were concerned, as long as it stayed in our little community, they weren't going to do anything. My husband, when I would try to kill me, when I first started working, and when I went to the police, they said, you're not damaged enough. you don't have enough bruises. And, you know, I didn't know that that I can force them to do something. I could have forced, you know, like that guy who killed my friends got to run around. And, but I can do that now. I can do that I mean, the police are a little bit more educated, but I can stand up for somebody and go like, you know, that's not okay, and I know that you're freaked out, but I can walk you through this, and I can take care of you. I can help you get your ID back, you know. I can do this, that, and the other thing. So,
it's a wonderful way to come out the other end of this.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to write. So that's, you know, it's like if I'm going to do it, it's like that. I didn't have any reference to anybody who came out, anybody who survived what I had survived, and it's like, all right, you know, there's going to be the reference. Some of it was a lot of fun. Some of it was completely scary. Some of it I don't remember at all.
And on that note, I believe we're going to say thank you so much, Jodie, for being agreeing to be interviewed, and
how do we end this?
Appreciate that.
Okay.
Ah.